Welcome to Marseille, the second most populated city in France and the capital of the Provence-Alpes-Côte region. It is a colorful and diverse city known for its magnificent architecture, unique culture, and vibrant Vieux-Port, the hub of tourist activities. Marseille is one of the largest Mediterranean cruise ports and a gateway to stunning beaches and the iconic Calanques National Park that you can visit on a boat trip from Marseille's old port. In this video, I give you an overview of Marseille cruise terminals, getting around the city, and the best things to do in Marseille. Officially called Marseille Vieux-Port, the port of Marseille is one of the leading ports in France and one of the major transit ports for cruises and ferries in the Mediterranean. It consists of two cruise ship terminals, La Joliette Cruise Terminal and Marseille Provence Cruise Terminal. La Joliette Cruise Terminal is located within a 15-minute walk from the Vieux-Port de Marseille, also known as the Old Port of Marseille, where some of the city's main landmarks and attractions are located. La Joliette can accommodate small and medium-sized vessels, including cruise ships, tender boats, cargo ships, mega yachts, and ferries. Small cruise ships usually dock at J4 terminal. However, the majority of the cruise vessels are too big to dock here, so they dock at Marseille Provence Cruise Terminal. La Joliette Cruise Terminal is best known for its large, beautiful shopping mall, Les Terrasses du Port, where you can shop, dine, and climb to the rooftop to enjoy panoramic views of the port and La Joliette Cruise Terminal. The surrounding area features restaurants, cafes, and some shops, so the walk to the old port is quite pleasant and easy. Marseille Provence Cruise Terminal, also known as MPCT, is located in the industrial zone around 8 kilometers from Marseille's old port and 7 kilometers from La Joliette Cruise Terminal. This port has 6 terminals featuring modern and all necessary facilities for cruise passengers. There are several ways to reach Marseille city center from this terminal. The most convenient yet a bit expensive way is to book a shuttle bus offered by your cruise ship. These shuttles usually cost around €20 round trip and will drop you off right in the center of the old port. However, cruise lines normally don't advertise the free shuttle bus offered by port authorities, which runs every 20 minutes between MPCT and La Joliette Cruise Terminal, from where you can walk into the city. You can inquire about the bus stop at the Tourist Information Office at the terminal. The third option is to take a local bus 35T, which is a special line of bus line 35 which runs between MPCT and La Joliette district, dedicated to cruise passengers only. The bus stop is located near the exit of the cruise terminal, and to get to the bus stop you need to walk for about a kilometer following the green line. I suggest you buy a day pass for €5.2, which covers unlimited rides on the metro, buses and trams for a day. You need to validate this pass on every ride. The bus 35T will drop you off at Place de la Joliette, from where you can reach the old port in about 15 minutes on foot. Marseille has an excellent public transportation network, and getting around the city is easy. The metro station is available at both La Joliette district and the old port, but you can easily explore the city's landmarks centered around the old port on foot. So, let's start. If you start walking from La Joliette Cruise Terminal, in about 10 minutes walk you'll come across the imposing Marseille Cathedral, also known as Cathédrale de la Major, which overlooks La Joliette Cruise Port. This stunning cathedral was built in the Byzantine and Roman Revival styles and dates back to the early 19th century. It is a national monument of France and one of the country's largest cathedrals, renowned for its magnificent interior lined with murals, mosaics and marble. The entrance is free of charge, so make sure you enter inside and admire its architecture and artwork up close. Across the street from the cathedral, you will spot a large square that is home to the MUCEM, the Museum of Civilizations of Europe and the Mediterranean, which offers an amazing insight into the civilizations of the Mediterranean. Inaugurated in 2013, the museum was built at the entrance to Marseille's harbor, next to the site of the 17th century Fort Saint-Jean. A channel separates the new museum's building and the Fort Saint-Jean, which has been reconstructed and today houses a part of the museum. The two sites are linked by a high 130-meter-long footbridge, which leads from the fort to the Le Panier district, Marseille's old town. The entrance fee is required for the MUCEM, but a part of the Fort Saint-Jean is free to walk around, which I highly suggest you do before you continue your walk to the old port. The entrance to the old port of Marseille is guarded by two massive fortifications, the Fort Saint-Jean, built by Louis XIV in 1660, and Fort Saint-Nicolas, also dating from the 17th century. Called Vieux-Port in French, the old port has been the beating heart of the city for centuries and is nowadays a symbol of Marseille. Vibrant, colorful, and always bustling with both tourists and locals, the old port is a central place in Marseille from where you can easily access all main landmarks of the city. Besides cafes and restaurants, the promenade is lined with some important historic buildings such as Marseille City Hall, Hôtel de Ville, and La Criée, Marseille's National Theatre. Only a 5-minute walk from the old port, you can also reach Le Panier, Marseille's old town, and La Canebière, the main shopping street in the city. In the morning from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., the old port is home to the fish market where you can see local fishermen selling their freshly caught fish overnight. You can find all types of fish here, from sea bream, scorpionfish and sardines, to red mullet, sole and others depending on the weather and the season. The old port is also the starting point of Marseille's hop-on-hop of bus, locally known as the Colorbüs. It offers several routes that cover Marseille's major landmarks, including the seaside and beaches. You don't really need Colorbüs to explore the city, as everything can be easily explored on foot, but if you prefer a panoramic narrated ride without too much walking, why not? Another sightseeing option is a little tourist train known as Petit de Marseille, which departs from the same spot as Colorbüs. This little train only makes 1 or 2 stops along the way, and there are 2 different routes in Marseille. If you want to visit the iconic Notre-Dame de la Garde church, you should go for Route 1. In the description of this video, I will leave you the official links to the websites where you can read more about routes, prices and timetables. From the old port, you can easily take a public bus to Notre-Dame de la Garde, the iconic hilltop church that dominates the Marseille skyline. A bus stop, La Capitainerie, is located at the entrance to the old port, only a few minutes walk from the tourist train and Colorbüs starting points. Bus line 60 runs every 15 to 20 minutes and will take you to the Notre-Dame de la Garde church in less than a 15-minute drive. If you have bought a day pass, which I suggested at the beginning of this video, all you have to do is validate your ticket on the bus. Alternatively, you can purchase a single ticket from the bus driver if you don't have a day pass. The bus 60 will drop you off right in front of the church. This is also a parking and a drop-off point for the tourist train. The Colorbüs usually stops a bit further down the hill. Built in the 19th century on the foundations of an ancient fort on the top of the city's highest hill, Basilica Notre-Dame de la Garde, also known as La Bonne Mère or the Good Mother among the locals, is the symbol of Marseille and the city's most visited landmark. The impressive Roman or Byzantine basilica is famous for its lavish interior and grand bell tower capped with the golden statue of the Virgin Mary. The church dominates the city skyline and can be seen from almost every point in the city. You can walk around the church and admire the spectacular city views, including the views of the surrounding Frioul archipelago with its renowned Chateau d'If fortress. The sunsets here are so breathtaking, so make sure to come here if your ship stays overnight or longer in the port. Besides the stunning interior of Notre-Dame de la Garde, you can also visit a small church shop and buy unique religious souvenirs to memorize this moment. After visiting the cathedral, you can take the same bus number 60 back to the old port and continue your city exploration on foot. I suggest you first head to the famous La Canebière Boulevard, the main shopping street that stretches 1 kilometer from the old port to another beautiful landmark, Saint Vincent de Paul Church. Half pedestrian only and half open to vehicles and trams, La Canebière dates from the 17th century and is lined with public institutions, small businesses, shops, restaurants and cafes. The Tourist Information Center is located at the beginning of the street, right next to the Stock Exchange and Chamber of Commerce of Marseille, the oldest in France dating from the 16th century. Behind these two buildings, you can check out the shopping mall that houses the renowned French Galeries Lafayette department store. At the end of this 1 kilometer long avenue, you can visit the striking Saint Vincent de Paul Church, built in the 19th century in a neo-Gothic architectural style. The church is renowned for its two 70-meter-high arrows and a beautiful interior decorated with stained glass windows and ogival curbs in the ceiling. Within a 5-minute walk from the old port, you can also visit the iconic Le Panier, Marseille's old town. You can also reach the old town right from La Joliette cruise terminal, as the neighborhood starts already at Marseille Cathedral and overlooks the port. Le Panier is famous for its old and tall buildings and the network of steep alleys and streets adorned with colorful murals. I visited Le Panier early in the morning, and the shops and cafes were not open, but this area is generally known for authentic cafes, eateries and quaint shops. The artistic ambience and a lot of graffiti are what makes this place so special. However, I heard from the locals that this neighborhood is not the safest place at night. Le Panier also features cozy little squares and historic landmarks such as Centre de la Vieille Charité. Originally built as an almshouse, this domed architectural gem today houses the Marseille International Poetry Center and the Art Museum. The 12th century Saint Laurent Church is another gem you can visit here, and you can even access it directly from the footbridge that connects Fort Saint-Jean and MUCEM. The MUCEM and Marseille Cathedral are also officially part of Le Panier neighborhood. Last but not least, I suggest you pass by and take some nice photos of the Church of Accoules, one of Marseille's oldest churches located in Le Panier, only a few blocks away from the old port. Now that we covered the main attractions that you can visit on foot, I want to show you how to get to the magnificent Palais Longchamp, the iconic palace that you've probably seen in almost all videos about Marseille. At the old port's metro station Vieux-Port, you need to take a Metro Line 1 in the direction of La Rose and get off at the metro station 5 Avenue Longchamp. This impressive historical monument was built in the 19th century to bring water to the city, and nowadays is home to the Museum of Fine Arts housed in the east wing of the palace and the Natural History Museum of Marseille in its western wing. The palace is entirely free to visit and walk around, while the museums require an entrance fee. The palace is surrounded by a wonderful park open to the public, a true green oasis in the middle of the bustling city. Marseille has so much to offer, and I want to show you another beautiful place offering incredible city panorama, accessible from the old port within a 15 to 20 minute walk. The Pharaoh Palace sits at the entrance to the harbor and overlooks La Joliette Cruise Port, MUCEM, Fort Saint-Jean and the entire old port. To save time or avoid walking, you can take bus 83 to get there, and the ride takes about 5 to 10 minutes. Set on a hilltop in the heart of Émile Duclos Park, the elegant palace was built as an imperial residence offered by the city to Napoleon III. However, the emperor never stayed at the Pharaoh, and the building served multiple purposes throughout history. Nowadays, the palace is a congress center, and visitors can enjoy its beautiful expansive gardens overlooking the seafront. From the old port of Marseille, You can also book boat trips to Chateau, the iconic fortress and former prison, famous for being one of the settings of Alexander Dumas' adventure novel The Count of Monte Cristo. If is the smallest island in the Frioul archipelago, known for being entirely fortified and centered around a chateau built in the 16th century for military and defensive purposes. The fortress was mainly used as a prison for political and religious detainees throughout the centuries. Nowadays, the castle has been transformed into a museum where you can learn about its history and visit the cells. I will soon make a separate video about visiting Chateau from the Old Port, so make sure you check it out. Another cruise you can book from the Old Port is a boat trip to the spectacular Calanques National Park, a paradise for nature lovers and those who seek breathtaking landscapes. Calanques are narrow, steep-walled inlets found along the Mediterranean coast, and some of the most beautiful ones extend for 20 kilometers along the coast between Marseille and Cassis. Known for unique flora and fauna, spectacular landscapes and dramatic cliffs overlooking mesmerizing turquoise waters, Calanques rank among the most beautiful national parks in France. The most popular coves include Calanques de Sormieu and Calanques de Morchieu, and you can explore them on a 2.5-hour boat trip from Marseille's Old Port. Popular activities in the national park include hiking, kayaking, rock climbing, snorkeling, scuba diving and sailing. You can also visit the park by car, but the cruise is an option that will allow you to admire the stunning rock formations from the water. If you want to go outside of Marseille and visit Cassis, Toulon, Aix-en Provence, Avignon, or other gems of the Provence region, the best way to do so is to take a train. Marseille Saint-Charles station is the main railway station where you can hop on a train to many destinations. The trains in France are operated by SNCF, and you can easily book the tickets online on the SNCF Connect app or purchase them at the station or ticket machines. I will leave you all the relevant links in the description of this video, so you can plan your day effortlessly. To read in detail about Marseille Cruise Port and things to do in Marseille, check out my blog adventurebegins.com. Thank you for watching this video, and if you liked it, click on the subscribe button below for more cruise travel content.